right, so no,
Where are we?
here we are.
Where is here? What is this?
Welcome back to the Be It One podcast. The we're gonna have to work on our intros because it's a little awkward. But yeah,
Be
this is the Be It One podcast. We're here today. Derek and I are here with one of our good friends, mentors, Austin. I don't know if you want us to say your last name.
Try it.
Try to say your last name.
Yeah.
Austin Soderquist.
Oh, you got it.
That was
You know
good.
my name.
Okay.
your last name Soder? No.
Some people butcher it.
Do they?
Soderquist.
Yeah. I had someone call me Soderquist last week.
Soderquist.
There's no N in there.
Huh.
It was to them.
Yeah.
Most people get my last name right. Young. It's pretty
Not
easy.
Young.
So anyways, yeah. This is gonna be fun. So we've both known Austin for a while. I've known him less time, but in that
Time's
time,
elusive. Yeah, you've known him.
in that time, I've had some really incredible experiences with him, from attending some of his events, seminars, two of them, and then one bonus, uh, and then worked with him one on one for a while. He was teaching me how to be more expressive, which I'm not doing right now. But I was gonna do something funny, but I don't know. Anyways,
Just
uh,
be it one.
he's got multiple books out there, children's books, a self-help book, if that's okay to call it self-help book, and then another amazing book which we'll really get into after this intro, but your messages from nature. Yeah, just an incredible guy. We've mentioned him a couple times already on the podcast, so now we get to put a face to the name and a voice to the name too. So yeah, Derek, why don't you go ahead and talk about him for a minute?
Oh man, yeah. I don't know where to begin. It's so I met Austin, I want to say 2017. Like we knew each other kind of growing up in Kanab, and I knew his sister, but then I worked with him in 2017, I want to say it was. I was getting into acting, and so I messaged him randomly and was like, "Hey, like the gal I was with at the time knows you. Will you mentor me?" And sorry, he became my first mentor in life, and it was cool. I mean, he pushed me through some. I didn't sing in the park, but he pushed me through some comfort zones that really you don't realize it until you start doing the work, what's holding you back in a sense. And then once you start, you almost get addicted. It's like, okay, well, what's next? What's next? And then you get to comfort spots. But like Clyde's saying, the books, we'll have you say a few of them. I've got three of them, but he's now up to 10, and he's got four more in the work, so it's like 14. And I mean, that's in the past 3 years, 3.5, maybe 4 years that you've been
Yeah, the
writing.
first one was published in 2016.
Oh, okay.
So it'll
Wow.
be 8 years this fall.
Holy. It's time flies.
I know.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So it was 2016 then that you mentored me. I'm skipped ahead a year. I think it was because you were writing your first book as well while we were. I'm I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, so I wrote it in 2011, but it took me 5 years before I actually got it published.
Hmm.
Wow, that
So,
is that's cool.
but I think I was meeting with you when we were in St. George, and if that's the case, we moved to Kanab in 2014. So maybe maybe we were living in Kanab when I worked
You
with you,
might have, yeah, and
and you were
commuted
living
over.
in St. George.
I was, yeah.
So that's what it was. So I'd go to St. George to work with you.
That
Wow.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Now it's all lining up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was before doing Zoom was a go-to move if two people lived away from each other, so you would have to commute.
Yeah.
Zoom wasn't really, I don't think it was quite
I
there
didn't think
yet.
we even had like FaceTime.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, the, sorry I derailed, but we didn't bring up you do events too, the Awaken events, and I've been to a couple of those. And coming up to the pad up here, up the canyon, I definitely want to come and do more. Like we started the morning, guys who are listening or watching, with a message from nature, and I'll let Austin dive into that more. But it was profound. I want to hear everybody's message too,
Yeah,
eventually, if
yeah.
that's cool to
Oh,
share. But
absolutely.
I mean, not every day you see a freaking bald eagle flying overhead. And
Man, that put me in tears.
good.
It's going to again, I think. But yeah, it's crazy.
It's
Uh, Something I forgot. The first time I actually met Austin was with my ex-wife at the time, and without the whole backstory there, we just shared a moment, and then you ended up giving me a book that would eventually set me on this course of, wanting to become a life coach and just improving myself. And yeah, it was a pivotal moment I'll never forget. So
Yeah.
again, thank you for that. That was such a good. You know the book Limitless, Chris
oh yeah.
Crone, yeah,
Oh yeah.
such a good book. And yeah, I had 2 free tickets in the back, and I went to the seminar, and I didn't finish the seminar. I quit it, but just like I quit everything. just I moved forward. I
Yeah.
think
You
it's
I
shifted.
think
yeah.
we'll talk more about that today, like what
Me
this whole
too.
idea of like quitting is, because I think that holds a lot of us back when we think like, oh, I just quit,
Mm,
but maybe there's something more going on.
I like that. Yeah.
I do. More internal things, like we don't just quit. There's always something
Right.
behind that word.
Well,
Like,
Clyde, you're here today, so
yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
you didn't quit.
Yeah. That's actually might be part of my message from nature
Hmm.
today, in a sense. I think there's a piece of that in there.
Hmm.
It's interesting.
Do we want to go and
Let's
share that? Do you want
let's
to
let
explain
Austin.
what
Yeah.
Well,
messages are from nature, and for people listening, maybe in a way that they could do it themselves at home,
Absolutely.
possibly? And
Yeah, so interestingly, just as you guys are talking about how you first met me, I never put that together that it was the woman that you were with that introduced you to me
hmm,
originally, both of you, which is fascinating,
that is, huh?
you know. And I used to like always think that I worked best with women because I have more like feminine energy. I grew up with 4 sisters.
Hmm.
I worked at a residential treatment center for teen girls. Some of my best friends growing up were all girls, and I've always felt more comfortable just working with women. But we might talk a little bit more about that too later on. But a lot of that was more connected to me being ashamed of masculinity,
Hmm.
and so I think it was important that your women introduced us, which allowed for this connection to happen. Because I probably wouldn't have talked to you if it wasn't for that intro.
well,
Yeah.
I agree there myself, and it could be the nurturing aspect, when I think of a woman, I think of a nurturer.
I thought you were going to say you think of me.
No, no, I think of me, I think of women because I'm a nurturing man as well. And it's funny because you saying that, I'm similar. Like the masculine thing, it's almost like ego. I just don't like egos clashing, and that's what you get a lot of times these days, I feel at least. And it's like, oh, that's funny that the nurturers of our life at that point introduced us to the
Hmm.
mentor we would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Messages with nature. I
Right.
derailed that.
So this is something that one of my mentors first, Chris Crone, guided me to back in 2017. So I also got a free ticket to Limitless,
Mm.
and um, I went with that, and then it led me down a path that has brought me more to where I am now. But at one of the events I was at, he gave us all a rose and said, okay, during lunch break, you're going to go out and talk to this rose, and then when you come back, you'll come back with a message from the rose. And I was like, that sounds weird. Like, how am I going to get a message from this rose? So I'm sitting there at lunch, I'm holding this rose, and I'm just looking at it. And I'm like, okay, what message do you have for me? And I really didn't get much. I'm like, okay, it has thorns and there's petals. So I guess my message is like, with the rose, you also get the thorns. and I just wrote down something, but it didn't feel very profound to me at all. But then when I got back in the room with the other 50 or 60 people, and they're sharing these messages that they got from the rose, I'm like, what? Like, how did you get that from a rose? This is really weird. And through the process, we did it more over and over. And so as I practiced, it's like a muscle that as you practice it, it strengthens and it becomes easier. And so over time, I started to get more ideas. New thoughts started flowing to me. And now it comes really easy. Like sometimes I don't even have to ask. Like where we're at right now here at Piece of Zion, when we were looking at the property before we actually purchased it, I came up here and I was just walking the land, just getting a feel for the plants and the mountain. And I walked up on the hill right here this morning where we went up and we did our meditation intro this morning. I sat there for a while and then I got up and was getting ready to go, and I hear all these little thought voices in my head say, wait, we've got a message for you. And that was the first time I've ever felt like there were flowers, these little wildflowers that called out to me. And so I kneeled down in front of them and said, okay, what message do you have for me? And they said, we are so excited for what you're going to be doing with this property. We have so many messages that we want to share. Please be bold in inviting people to come and receive of the messages we have.
Wow.
And it was powerful.
Holy.
So, from that, as you mentioned, Derek, I've got a book, Messages from Nature, because I've been gathering a lot of these, and I felt, okay, now I need to actually put them in a place where I can get back to them. And so I did one book. I could probably do, at least 2 more books at this point. But the whole point is when we are grounded, when we are present, that's when learning happens. And anything and everything can teach us. So wherever you're at in your life right now, there's a lesson to be learned if you're paying attention. And so the most important thing we do before we go out is we ground. We take a few deep breaths. This morning we did some Qigong.
Love it.
Yeah.
And we just got into a really present, grounded space. And it was right when we were doing that the bald eagle flew by.
Yeah.
And you don't see those up here, you had said.
I've
Really?
never seen a bald eagle right here on our property.
That's incredible.
But this is the thing. So messages from nature. It's not just plants. It's not just rocks. It's dirt. It can be clouds. It can be animals. It can be anything. And so as we're paying attention, animals will show up. Yeah. Things will happen that you can look at and go, that's really interesting. But there's a reason. We were doing a class here for kids a couple summers ago, and we had the big doors to the classroom open. And while one little girl, I think she was 9, she gets up and she's talking about how she was shy and she was afraid to get up and perform in a talent show. And so as part of her breakthrough experience, we said, hey, let's have you get up in front of us and sing a song so you can practice your talent here in front of a group. And so she gets up and she starts to sing, and there's 2 swallows that fly into the room, circled her head, and then perched up inside the classroom and watched her sing.
Holy.
As soon as she was done singing, they flew out, and that's the only time I've ever seen those birds here on this property.
Well, and to come in, circle her, and land, I mean, that's some Snow White singing right there.
Right?
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, fairy tale.
So when we're grounded, when we're paying attention, some really powerful things can happen.
Yes. Yeah.
I agree there. It's been a long time since I'd been that grounded. I don't remember the last time I gathered
the last time
chi.
your mom grounded you, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah. It's been, yeah. It was interesting though.
Yeah,
Like,
talk about the chi, sorry.
well, no, the chi, if whoever's listening or watching, look into that, because it's the best way and fastest way I've found to ground myself. And just the breathing, you're lining up the chakras, it puts you into tune with things, and it was just good, man.
I noticed this time when I had my eyes closed, like you kind of see motion when your eyes are closed, like energy, and it was like coming in. It was really crazy, like almost like my eyes were like bulging out, you know, like, but it was just like, whew, just this wave of energy coming at me. And I was like, oh. And then, you know, we open our eyes and see this bald eagle fly, which that was wild. Like, so after my dad died, my mom got all of us kids this picture of a bald eagle. And not just a bald eagle, it was actually sitting in a tree with snow on it, which was interesting because, you know, we just got snow last night.
And it's been dry here, but it snowed just last night and gave us just enough snow for this morning.
Yeah.
Which will probably be gone by the time we're done this morning.
Yeah, that was a moment because I don't see him often either, and when I do, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, it's taken me some time to say, oh, there goes my dad, because there was this period of time that I just didn't believe in that kind of stuff, or, you know, he's dead, he's gone, there's no more. But that's what my message was actually. We'll get into that later, but just a profound experience, and I think. So you call this where we're at, this is your home. You call it Peace of Zion.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
So we were trying to come up with a name for this retreat that we're building for people to come and find healing. And so I was trying to think like what I want people to experience, what I want people to give. So at the root, my message is to help you understand that you're a miracle and you have a purpose. Yeah. That's my message. You are a miracle, you have a purpose. Because I believe that if we all realize that I am a miracle and I have a purpose, when we live in alignment with our unique divine purpose, that's what's going to bring peace to the world. You know, so that we have so much chaos, so much confusion, because people don't know who they are. They don't know why they're here. They don't understand how amazing they are. And so we're trying to be other people. We're trying to gain acceptance. We're trying to, you know, find that belonging,
significance
outside of ourselves. And so I want people to experience peace. And peace comes when I recognize I'm a miracle, I have a purpose, and I'm present. And so Peace of Zion, we're right by Zion National Park. And the whole idea of Zion is an interesting term. So from the scriptures, the idea of Zion is, they call them Zion because they have one mind and one heart. They were one. And so here we are on this podcast, be at one. Zion means be at one.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that. I grew up thinking it meant like holy place or holy land, but one of heart and mind.
And the reason why it's holy is because people are one.
That makes sense.
Whole.
It doesn't mean we're all the exact same. It's we are ourselves, and when we all are ourselves, we fit into the puzzle perfectly. It's when I'm trying to be your puzzle piece that things don't work out. But if I recognize I've got my own unique curves and jagged edges so that I can fit into the bigger puzzle and own that, then at that point we can truly be one.
Wow.
So that's why Peace of Zion. Experience peace and be one.
And take a piece with you when you leave. You can.
Yeah. Well, because as you awaken to that, then it goes with you.
Oh yeah.
So wherever you're at, you can find peace.
Yeah. You saying that once you awaken to that, I always think of The Matrix and that scene where I forget the guy's name, but he bites into the steak and he says, oh, what is it? Now I'm spacing it. Something is bliss. It's like
ignorance.
Ignorance is bliss. And when he says that, it's like you get those moments after you do awake to certain things that you're like, put me back on autopilot, put me back in the Matrix, like, holy crap. It almost is overwhelming, but once you keep awakening, it gets easier. You start learning how to fly, in a sense.
Yeah. So you mentioned easier. Earlier you said
that is
that
true.
Life
there is no
hard.
Such thing as easy,
You know, so it's interesting. So like this idea of easier, you know, we awaken and it seems like, oh, it makes more sense. We feel alive. And if you think about it, the times when you feel most alive, you know, it's oftentimes because you're outside of your comfort zone. You're doing stuff that's in alignment with your purpose. Yeah. But it's also maybe a little scary at times.
Yeah.
Definitely scary. Yeah.
Absolutely.
At
So
times, though. I
at
like that you
times,
say at
Yeah.
times, because there are times that it does just, it's like you can just not think about it.
yeah,
And you're feeling alive, you're living your purpose, you're doing something that is not quite normal, but it's like you're just in it and you're doing it. But then there are those times, like even, you know, driving up this morning, I had moments where it was like, gosh, is this really, like, what are we doing? Yeah. Type
yeah.
of a thought, you know, like, do we really need to do this? What's going on? But
I similar. I honestly driving up today, I thought, okay, you can flip around still. You can easily like I don't think Clyde would mind, and I think it was that little bit of sliver of fear because anytime I'm around Austin, I know I'm doing some growing. I know it. Like I
yeah,
know that we're gonna push through things. I'll probably tear up. It'll be a good time, but there's that it's not a fear, but it's like that smaller portion of you is like, don't go.
definitely
Just,
Yeah.
something you're trying to
yeah,
avoid.
stay
What's
in
that
that
first
comfort.
step?
Yep.
Because now, like, you can feel it right now, like it's getting comfortable and it's flowing.
Yeah.
But initially, it was a little awkward testing the mics and moving the couches and
Yeah.
you know
Well,
bumping into the coffee maker and everything.
even for me though, we were going to connect almost 2 years ago when I had first moved back to town, and then it just yeah, going through my own stuff, I never made that commitment in a sense. So today was a redemption for me to come up, finally see this beautiful home, get to see a beautiful soul again and hang out. And so, yeah, I think that's where it also was at for me. I was like, oh, I haven't seen Austin in so long and had moment like the time to sit down and talk. Like we've passed, I saw you at Anastasia,
Yeah,
but it was that we've always been passing since I'd say the past like 4 years or
yeah,
so, not had like sit down talk and yeah.
Well, and for me, you know, and maybe this is where we can talk about the word quit, but you know, the uh, last time we were together was, well, no, I did come to an event after, but yeah, it was, you know, I stopped doing sessions with you that were helping me, but for reasons, you know, stopped, excuses, some of them. And so, you know, it was like that moment too of like, gosh, actually, maybe not so much on the way up, but before I sent the text to you, I was like, man, what's he gonna think? Like, is this just another flash in the pan for Clyde? Like, what's gonna happen after this? But anyway, yeah, to your point, we're here, we're doing it. I mean, this is, as Derek and I had talked a couple times before coming up, like, there's no way we're gonna do an hour session. Like, we're gonna take up all the time you have. I feel like because this conversation is just gonna be so good, and it already has. It
yeah.
already has been.
Well, I have nothing but love for both of you. Like I cherish our experiences. So I got to a place where becoming a mentor was my next guide in my growth because I've hired tons of mentors. I've been to tons of seminars, and I just got to a point where it became hollow. Like I felt like I wasn't getting anything. And then I felt this thought, your next seminar is one that you're going to host.
Mm.
And by doing Awaken, that first one in Kanab, terrified me. Actually putting together an event, hosting a board break experience for other people that now I'm responsible for their, well, I'm not responsible, they get it, but I'm creating the atmosphere, and so that then put me on a space where, okay, now I'm learning and growing again.
Mm.
That's part of the process we can learn, but if we're not giving, we can't receive more. We get damned, we get blocked
Mm.
because we're not allowing it to flow.
Mm.
And so by you guys allowing me to guide you in those moments, guided me. So in many ways, I see you as my mentors, as you maybe see me as your mentor, and I just see, we're one in that journey. And so I always learn when I'm with you too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's the truth of a mentor and guru and just life, of that the receiving and just give and take. Like not take, give and receive is a better, you receive and you give, and that makes sense. does. It's like, huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we can, let's go ahead and share the messages we got from nature this morning.
Yeah.
So just so all of you listening are aware, we went up, we did some qigong, we did 5 minutes of grounding up on the mountain. That's when the bald eagle came, and things like that just happen, and it's a beautiful experience. And then at that point, we then said, okay, whatever catches your attention, go to that. And when you get there, if something else catches your attention, go to that. And you just keep going until you get to a spot where you feel peace. And then when you feel peace, whether it's you're looking at a rock or a feather or a bird or whatever it is, at that point you ask, what message do you have for me? And then you just write down whatever thoughts come into your mind. And then once you draw a blank, you can say, okay, is there anything else? And if more thoughts come, you write it down. And you do that until you feel peace, just that contentment, like that's it. And that's what we did this morning. So if we can go ahead and share those and then see what that brings up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to start? I think yours was, today was your day in a sense. My message was it was a great, profound one, but it wasn't a bald eagle. It wasn't a reminder, it was a reminder, but it wasn't,
Yeah.
So I'd say you got exactly what you needed
yes,
this morning.
that's truth.
And what you needed, maybe you might not think that much of it, but as you share it with us or those listening right now, it may be a very powerful thing. So it's hard to like put a value on the message.
It's true.
Because it might be simple, and yet.
Yeah. I was gonna say I had one that it was this little twig. I wish I got a picture of it, and I wish I got a picture where I was sitting today because it was pretty cool. But it was just this little twig laying on a rock, and I just walked by it, and it was, hey, I'm still here, and I was like, cool, thank you. But it, like, as I say that, I'm like, oh shit, excuse my language. We're trying not to swear so much this one, but I was like, yeah, I am still here. Wow, that's beautiful, So sometimes those little ones are just like
a little twig on a rock.
Yeah.
Well, nature has humor too. Like there's been some
that.
very humorous things that people get, like these messages that come out and they're like, you just made a joke.
Yep.
It's love. The Creator built this place off love, so I love, humor is that twig. That's gonna have me giggling all day, man.
And just the way it was, like, it was just like hey, I'm here, like the way it was laid out on the rock. I was like, all right. But yeah, I don't care who goes first. It's if you guys want me to, I will.
Well, what if we go around and then end with you, Clyde?
Okay.
So maybe Derek, you go first, and then I can go.
Yeah,
So just share your thought, and then what does that mean to you?
Okay. Well, mine, I didn't walk around. It was interesting when we took that moment after gathering the chi and grounding. It just said, be here. Like something in me was like, be here. And I looked out over the mountain. I was watching snow melting off the trees as the sun was coming through the water on them. And it was cool because it's like in the movie The Peaceful Warrior, when he gets grounded and like his hairs stand up on his neck. It's almost like superhero senses. Like I was hearing the water falling off the trees. I was hearing every bird out there. It was cool. I was I swear I could even hear the clouds moving. And mine was just to be patient. It was like, just be patient. Like, enjoy this. I find in life that I'm always go, 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 go. And so it was funny when you were like, if you feel a need to wander, do your thing. And for the first time in a long time, something in me was just like, be here. Find the peace where you are. You don't need to go searching for it. It's right here. And it was good. I hadn't been grounded, like I was saying, like that since my mom. No. But it'd been a long time since I had grounded myself mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And so since the divorce, I've been running like crazy. And it's not bad. It's not that I'm running from things. Well, it could be. I won't say that I'm not, but it's been just kind of a go, 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 go. And just being up there, it was like, huh, where have I been going the past month and a half? And so thinking back on that, it's good. I've been drinking like a fish too, and that's something too that was like, yeah, like that's not needed. There isn't peace in the bottle. And you can easily get confused with that, I think, where it's like, oh, this brings peace of mind. And it's like, no, that's always around you. And so it was good.
Yeah.
It was good to just be still. I'm dropping things, but yeah, just to be.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. Like we spoke after, and I've gotten to a point simply living where I'm like, I am because it is, and it is because I am. And just being is the simplest thing. And not being in your head, just being. And it was cool. It was it was needed.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
because we forget that we're human beings,
Yeah.
and we do, and it
All
doesn't
over
bring
ourselves.
peace.
It just stinks. That doo-doo stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek. Thanks for
Yeah,
sharing.
I keep dropping crap. Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. It's just a video going on. Don't mind me or nothing. Ooh.
Yeah. I didn't go very far either. So I just stayed there, and then I turned around and was just looking. I'm like, okay. Nothing caught my attention at first for a moment. But then I noticed the steam coming off of the snow
Mm.
as it was rising. So that caught my attention. And so then I was looking at that, but then I also noticed the snow melting, and then as it was sliding down the grass and dripping to the dirt. So I saw the steam rising, and I saw the water dripping. So there was the rising up and the dripping down. And so the message, I'm like, okay, it's the water. That's what's got the message for me today. And so what I always do when I do this, I take a picture of what it is, and then I record it. And so this is what I wrote down. These are the thoughts. You may not notice me, yet I'm always here. As water, I rise up to the skies and soar over the earth. I also sink low into the depths of the earth. I am all-encompassing. You will see me in liquid, gas, and solid forms. I am in you and give you life. If ever you feel lost and unsure of your standing and direction, seek me, and I will help you stand and flow. In this life, as you are made mostly of water, you too can and will rise up and soar high. You will also be brought low into the depths. Water rises and flows down. That is the cycle. That is your cycle. As you rise and fall, you are cleansed and purified. Resist not the cycle of life. As you do so, you also become an agent of life, and you give life to all who come in contact with you. So I was like, okay. So then I asked, okay, is there anything else? And this is what came. You have been in a spiritual drought. You are dehydrated physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. This is to help you understand the importance of and value of water in your life. Reconnect to the flow and allow yourself to be brought back to life in a very profound way. And so you may not, we haven't talked for a while, but I have been in a drought. Yeah, I've been dehydrated in a very real way. I haven't been drinking that much water either. So I'm like, oh, that's true. So physically I'm dehydrated. Spiritually, I've been on a spiritual journey. I've gone through like a spiritual crisis, I call it, which crisis, the Chinese word for crisis actually has danger and opportunity in the word crisis. So I've been in the spiritual crisis, this whole rebirth awakening. It's actually lasted for about 5 years now. And it's been probably one of the most difficult things I've ever gone through. And I've had moments of rebirth, moments of reawakening, but in the last, year probably, it's been a pretty low space as well. And so, that whole process of, it says you are dehydrated physically, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. I haven't been talking to people, so you guys inviting me to be part of this is great because, I mean, look where I live.
Yeah.
I don't have
So
neighbors
beautiful.
right next to me, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't interact a whole lot with people. So this whole thing is to help you understand the importance of value and water in your life. And so so to me today, that means this is why it's important for us to connect, because it's water flowing. That's what gives life, with our social, people connecting, but then also, spiritually and in all other areas of life, because I am water. You are water. We are all water.
Yeah.
And so what's in me today might be in you tomorrow, in this whole process as we cycle through. Well, that's the message I got.
I really like that.
Yeah.
To be honest, and that speaks to me as well. The dehydrated. Like, I drink a lot of water. I'm not dehydrated physically, but spiritually, that's mine was be at peace, kind of pump your brakes on the intake of your alcohol, and yours is telling me kind of a similar nature. It's always got our back.
Yeah.
On our way up here, I made this comment. I was like, I'm surprised Austin would do this on a Sunday, because I had assumptions that you go to church on Sundays, and then we kind of just said maybe he's changing spiritually. Like, I don't know where that came from or why I would even say that. I didn't even have plans on telling you that. But after hearing that, man, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then we had a moment, and it kind of leads, has is part of my message, but there was so much mist, fog, as we were coming off the sands into Mount Carmel, and there's a whole message from nature there too. But
yeah,
that's powerful.
I brought up to him. I love this thing called Navajo traditional teachings on YouTube, and this guy says that when there's fog or mist, that the holy ones are amongst us. So we're not holy beings, we're sacred beings in Navajo belief. And the holy ones are, what we're working towards in a sense. But yeah, when it's foggy, I feel it. Like, not that sense of something's out there going to get me, but just this sense of kind of like grandfather spirit looking over me. So it was cool getting that fog.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I mean that's the other part, physical realm. As we die, the energy shifts and we become, spiritual again. That peace, because we all have friends and loved ones who've passed on.
Yeah.
I like you used that word pass on. I struggle with the word dying and death. I'm like, that's such an aggressive word, death. And it's like, man-made. That's man-made for sure.
Yeah.
It's just energy shifting, transferring, transforming.
Yeah, that's been big on my mind lately, is just energy and how it transforms or transfers. And just, I don't know if it was in the episode that you listened to, but where I talked about this.
The transformer.
Yeah.
And like how the power goes along the power lines and then it can hit the transformers. You talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and picturing, I didn't see my dad's suicide, but I had this image come to mind of it happening. And it was like, the it's a little gruesome or, dark thing to talk about or say, but like the pieces that came out were energy. And then I just imagine those landing on his loved ones. And, for a long time, I didn't understand why I felt so guilty and so depressed about his suicide. And I realized, hey, it's my opportunity to take that energy that he had and transform it into a mission, a purpose. Don't let it be the same for me as it was for him, type of a thing.
You've seen that image before of like that at the end it looks like a butterfly, but you're the one in the middle you're the filter, and you've got all your family heritage, all your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents off to, this side, and all of them that come to this pivotal point, which is you. And then from you, your posterity, as it goes down, children, grandchildren, on and on, and I mean, you could even include friends, people that you interact with on that other side. And so all of this comes through you, and you're that filter of, what work do you do that cleanses, and and then what gets passed on.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen that picture.
I like that though.
Yeah.
To me, I've heard that people who have had near-death experiences, that they're actually shown the ripple effect that they had. You're not shown the sins. Like, the idea of sinning is such an aggressive thing as well, but you're actually shown, that old lady you got the door for. You're shown those, and I think that's a cool idea, because I just do things to do them and be kind, because I do believe in that ripple. But to see that, I mean, that'd be big. Yeah. That would be such a beautiful... I'd watch that movie all day. I was just seeing what they then do with that ripple. Yeah. And then it ripples and it ripples, and it doesn't stop. It's that cycle of water again. Yeah. Sorry to take the whole convo a little, but your message, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I want to cry right now.
No, I don't know that you will.
Dude, I probably... Even when it flew over and you said, "There's my dad," that hit my spirit. So.
It did me too. It was, Well, and I'll be honest, I don't know if the message was complete. I started to walk away and felt like, maybe I need to sit back down, but I just kept going. And then I slipped, and I was like, I'm here anyway, let's just keep going. So there might be more to this message, but it was good, I think, anyway. So I went back up the, you got that little wash or whatever that I continue to get demolished by. I've had several experiences up that way. And so I started to go that way, and I'm like, no, you're just going that way because that's where you always go. And so I tried to turn, and then I saw steam coming up from, not directly from there, just up above it. And I was like, okay, I need to go that way. So I walked up there, and then there's this spot with a nice dry rock under a tree, and I was like, okay, that's a good place to sit down and write. And then I just couldn't move from there. Like, I was standing staring at it, and I couldn't go to it. And I was like, all right. So I took some deep breaths, and then I just kept hearing the water drop, but it was like from a place, it was just like, it was all around me, but it was just really loud. So I walked up some more, and there was another tree with a rock, but it wasn't as nice and dry as the first place, but I was like, okay. So I walked to it, sat down, and for a while before I started to write, it was just dropping all around me from the tree, which is cool, So I just sat against the tree and just put my head on it and just listened for a minute, and that was enough. Like, I could have just been done with my message right there and just needed to hear it, not have any words come to mind. But then I just started hearing, like, some reassurance is what I think it was. And so says, and I don't know if this was from the bald eagle or if this was from the tree or from the raindrop or the melting snow. I'm not positive.
Maybe it just was.
It just was. And what I do know is it was from my dad. That's what I know. And yeah, so it just said, damn it. I know how difficult it has been. Yeah, I didn't expect to get this emotional. I know how strong you've been through it all. I know how confusing and complicated it's been. I know that you have found the beauty in all of it. You've never lost sight of who you are. You've continued to learn and grow, and you continue to share your voice. I come to you today as a reminder that I am still here. Uh, Sorry, I was cold and writing fast. Though it may be in a different shape, a different form, my voice may not be the same, but you can still hear it if you remain open to it. I may be the misty fog, I may be the bald eagle, I may be those dogs barking in the distance. If you just take a second every now and then to just listen, then I promise you will hear me, you will feel me. And that's just where at least in that moment, it was complete. But like I said, as I started to walk away, I was like, yeah, maybe there's more to that. But yeah, it
You
was,
got me.
Yeah.
yeah. So kind of nice. I keep getting reminded that his energy is still there, still out there, still feeding my soul. Because that's what he was, man. He was just this wise guy that could say 2 words to you and just, yeah, give you a lifelong lesson in 2 words, you know, whatever he said. So yeah, it was crazy. It was really cool to see that bald eagle fly by, and I'm curious to see if my sister's seen one today. We usually see one pretty close together, and she lives in Florida.
Wow.
So
That's really cool.
yeah, it was good, and you know, just like Derek had mentioned, and like not giving myself that opportunity enough. I think I'm always reminded that every time I come up here and do a message from nature, that just take an hour and, you know, ground yourself for 5 minutes, go be in nature and listen.
Yeah.
'Cause it's always so profound.
And it doesn't take long.
No.
You know, it's just that take a few deep breaths, ground, and then ask and
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
I've brought up before, but the word asking and thinking are 2 of my favorite words lately, where either you're thinking or you're asking. And if you're thinking, you're a thin king. And if you're asking, you're as king. You're as a king.
Hmm.
And so,
Hmm.
if you want to know, you ask.
Yeah.
And it's like, huh. We look past nature, and it's all around us all the time, just waiting for us to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've had, you know, I get messages a lot when I'm driving, and one of the last ones kind of goes with your the water, but it's this. I just was picturing, or I saw this tree that was dead. You know, it didn't have leaves, looked hammered, like the wind had just beat it to death. And then I just pictured myself resisting the wind, and, you know, resisting life, and moving with the wind, and being in flow, and what I would look like if I continued to just, I ain't moving. This is where I'm at. I planted my roots here. I'm not moving.
Yeah.
And, you know, and like that's like these beliefs that we have. Like when we plant our roots in beliefs of I'm not good enough, or oh, I can't be a coach. I can't start a podcast. I can't, you know, all these beliefs that we just like just withstand. And then what we look like. And then I you know, was like, okay, well, what would I look like if I just let go and just went with the wind? And it was just like beauty, you know, no wrinkles, no gray hair, no, like, it was just beauty. It was cool.
I like that. It's funny. I'm jumping back a little to us talking about, you know, when you start waking up to these kind of things and you turn the plane off autopilot. And it's funny because I don't know if you guys have this or anybody listening, but when I have my own negative beliefs, my own negative voices and thinking, and I work through them. But when I hear somebody outside of me, like when we were starting and you took off your sweater and your tummy poked out a little and you're like, oh, fat boy,
Hmm.
it drove me crazy. It did. There's this portion of me that's like, shut it. Do not say that. Like, you're, the perfection is in the imperfection to me. And
Yeah.
so, like, I don't know. Then maybe it's when I hear people say that, I think of mine, but I just don't like when people limit themselves. Like, and it's hard dating. It's hard to, like, relationships I struggle in because I'm like, stop with that. Like, you're perfect just the way you are. Like, eat however much you want, do whatever you want, but take care of yourself. Like, my ex, a lot of them, they wouldn't eat, and it's that body, this, what is it? Dysphoria?
Dysmorphia.
Dysmorphia, thank you.
Yeah.
And that drives me crazy. I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, we're,
So interesting you bring that up right there too, because you've heard the saying that what you see in others is what you see in yourself. Everything in the world is a reflection, basically a mirror that show back pieces of ourselves. And so there's only three things that we have control over. We have control over our conscious thoughts, where we draw our attention, our emotions, and our actions. That's it. So I can't control you, Derek, or you, Clyde. I can't control my kids. I can't control the dogs when they're barking and they annoy me so bad. I can't control any of that. And then I was listening to this book. So my wife listened to this book. It's kind of an interesting book. It's like Hunger Games slash Bachelorette,
whoa,
put together.
okay.
So it's like a dystopian book where, it's past the Fourth World War already, and America's this other country. There's a king, and they have a prince, and to get the prince, his wife, they do a selection. So they gather out of all the districts. They've got 8 different districts. Girls, so that they can show that we're all connected. Everybody has a chance at being royalty. So there's this idea.
Yeah.
But the one of the main girl, she's like whining so much. Like she just goes to these extreme thoughts. Like she might be okay right now, but then in the next moment she's like, oh, he hates me and all this, and I'm like, man, she's bothering me so much. But then I'm like, okay, hold on. Why is this character bothering me? What does that mean about me? I turn inward and I realize I'm very extreme with my thoughts. If someone looks at me weird, all of a sudden I think, oh, am I not good enough? What are they thinking about me? Because I've struggled a lot throughout my life with low self-esteem, shame, feeling not good enough, like I don't belong. And so I very quickly can go to an extreme mindset of I'm a failure. It's not going to work out. And so I'm like, okay, I can own that. And yeah, that character bothered me because I do that so much. And in hers, she's trying to become the queen,
Hmm.
you know, and in my life, I'm trying to be the royal within me, right? I'm trying to be the king, like you were talking about
Yeah,
king. And how often do I go to those extremes that push me away from the royal that's within me? And
that's,
so it was just a great reminder, like,
hmm,
okay, hold on, you know, I'm okay, trust the process. I'm worthy, period. I
uh,
don't have to prove myself.
worthy is one. We're born worthy.
Yep.
Like after going through a miscarriage, it taught me that. It was like, wow, the fact that I am here says something in itself. I am worthy to be here. Therefore, I am worthy of all the greatness this space holds. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
worthy. I like that too. That book sounds interesting. How's your relationship now with the character? A little better now
Yeah.
you.
After I did that, then I was like, I owned it because I see, okay, that's a part of me,
Yeah.
But in the book, so there's three books, so through it you see it gets less and less as she owns that royal within her, and
Hmm.
there's tests. There's moments of test where she's like the king at the time gives her a challenge, but it doesn't feel right to her.
Hmm.
She was asked to sentence this person to lifetime in prison for stealing clothes for his kids. And that was part of the job to become royalty, is you have to make these hard choices. And she's like, I can't do that. So she was willing to risk the idea that she wouldn't make it. And, you know, the whole beginning, she was actually running from the whole idea to begin with, which I can relate to. I feel like I've been running from myself most of my life, you know? And then she gets to this point where it's like, okay, now she actually can see it, but now she's given a test. You know, do you sentence someone to lifetime in prison for stealing clothes for their kids? And she was told to do that, otherwise she's done. So what she did, she took off her necklace, her bracelet, she gives it to the person and says, go pay your debts to the king. And so she defied the king, but did it in a way that honored her and paid the debt. You know, and so I think each of us, as we go through this process of becoming, we have moments like that where we're asked to let go of things that at times we think, you know, I'm nothing without that. And we go through these cleansing periods and testing periods that grow us and push us beyond what we ever thought possible.
Wow. Every day can teach, and there's a test every day. I'm learning. It's funny because I notice the smaller ones, but then the big one, like for me, it's with drinking. That test, I don't know why, it's right in front of my face all the time, but I'm like, look past it. And so every day, though, there's, you know, interactions or things that teach, test, and then you just move it on to the next kind of.
Yeah.
But
And if you fail the test or you quit,
quit.
it's not over. Like that quitting or that failure is a lesson in and of itself that was necessary for you to become who you were born to become. I think I've talked with you about Matt Kahn, one of my favorite authors.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called The Universe Always Has a Plan. And in that, there's two phrases that have stuck with me and will stick with me forever. And one is, you've done nothing wrong, which is huge for me because as a perfectionist, I've struggled so much. Like everything I did was wrong because I had to be perfect. So that phrase, you've done nothing wrong, hit me very strong. And I feel the truth in that. And then the second one was, in order for you to become who you were born to be, life couldn't have happened any other way.
Yeah.
And now all of it makes sense. You know, we weren't born to be perfect. There's this idea in Buddha and Buddhism, this living wabi-sabi. Have you heard of wabi-sabi?
I think you might have
mentioned it before.
Up to me, yeah.
And that one, it's all about embracing imperfection, becoming an imperfectionist rather than a perfectionist, seeing the value and the beauty in imperfection.
That's cool. That to me, nature, we don't ever see nature and go, oh, that tree's not tall enough. That's not this. You just accept it for the beauty and what.
The moment I do though, because I do like, I will judge a tree, but it's only when I see a different tree. Like if I'm just looking at one tree, it's a tree to me, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. But if I'm like, you know what, I would rather that tree. That one has a little more shade. Then I do. But yes, to your point, like yeah, it's nature, like it's.
Yeah.
You were drawn to something, Austin, over there. I don't think people can, you know, see that through hearing, but when you said imperfection, I kind of saw you.
Yeah.
My right eye's been watering pretty much this whole podcast.
Okay.
So
I was just like, okay, there might have been something there, but it's just allergies.
Well, it's not allergies either.
Maybe
so
the wells
I need to
are
probably
full.
check into that a little bit because it's my right eye that's watering. So just like nature has messages for us, our body does too. Because guess what? Our body is nature.
Yeah.
Like our body's made up of the materials from the earth.
We're dirt.
We're dirt, literally, right? And water.
Yeah.
Like that's who we are. And so when we have aches, when we have pains, when our body does stuff, we can do the same thing. We can pause and say, okay, What is the lesson here? What are you teaching me? What are you asking me to pay attention to? And there's always something if we listen.
In our last episode, I said that. I'll picture, so if I have back pain, I'll think of a color. Like at first, I'll think of a shape. And once I have the form, I go, okay, what color is this? And then once I have the color, I just say, how are you today? And once I acknowledge it, it'll talk, I'll have that conversation for a little. And then it just goes, oh, have a good day. Thanks for saying hi. And it's gone. It just wanted me to say, how are you? And
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting. It's like, huh. Like,
Well, that you've helped me through two aches and pains that I didn't think I like. The first one was my feet pain that I was certain came from running down Squaw. I know that's not the best name for a trail. I apologize, I didn't name it. Those that are listening, but I thought it was because I ran down this mountain, which could have been, but we did a little heal your body thing, and it was stepping into the future, stepping into something. I was afraid of stepping forward in life.
Louise Hayes, I love her.
Yeah.
And we did this basically a breakthrough belief shift or a mindset shift. Haven't had feet pain since.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening, watching or listening, Heal Your Body is by Louise Hayes, and phenomenal woman, phenomenal book. That book did change my life.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones that you read and it clicks, and sometimes you don't want to know where the pain is coming from. It's like, well, screw that. Like when it was back pain for me, you're stressing out on funds, you're stressing out on income.
Lower back.
Yeah. And it was like, well, dang, Louise, like, how did you know?
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's really quick with the eye watering too. I don't know if you guys knew this, but our body is split in half. So we are feminine and masculine in one, and that goes for men and women. And it's cool because even nature is that. Like you have male and female plants, male and female animals, except for starfish and other weird anomalies, but the masculine side. So maybe I don't know. For me, it's usually my left side, and it's I think issues I had to work through with my mother that I didn't even know were there. But as I've worked through them, it stopped aching as much.
Yeah.
But the right side, that's
Well, right side for me, so right side is future and masculine.
oh yeah, oh,
And so,
future.
and then the tears. So there's a book called The Shack. There's also a movie, great book, touches on the idea of forgiveness. But in there they say, so with tears, they say, let the healing waters flow. The healing waters. And that's what tears are. They're healing waters, and you let them flow. So you got my right eye, future masculinity. You look at things that I'm doing in my life with building businesses, actually getting out there, which is seen as more of a masculine type endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneur. That's a fun word, huh? Entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah, actually stepping out.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah. But, so there might be something there.
Yeah.
That's what's on my horizon right now as I'm moving forward. Ashamed of masculinity and to embracing it as part of who we are.
When you
I
say,
think sorry, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
I was just going to say with the masculinity thing, I think society plays a little bit of a role in it too, especially nowadays where it's almost it's hated on being masculine almost, and it's like, but that's a part of all of us.
It has a place.
It
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
When you say ashamed of it, like, because
It
I
is.
think I relate to it, but I am curious if I do in the way that you're saying.
So I was raised with 4 sisters. I'm the oldest of 5. I've got 4 sisters. And I think a lot of it connects with, and my dad was working most of the time.
Mm.
So I was home with my mom and my sisters. That's what I saw, and I would hear a lot of times, you got to be careful, you're stronger than you think you are. And, I would do stuff, and then my sisters would start crying, and then I'd get in trouble. And I'd hear that you're stronger than you think you are, and then I've had several of my sisters were in abusive relationships with men. I would hear how men would talk about women in the locker room at school, right? And I'd see how they disrespect and abuse women. And again, I live with my mom and my sisters primarily, and some of my best friends then were girls as well. And so I from a young age, I'm like, well, I don't want to be that. And so anytime there was any thoughts or feelings of attraction to women in a, more of a sexual way, I'd see that almost as a negative thing, you know, and then
Don't be that ape, almost.
right, and so I would see that nature as a negative, and because I could see how it is used in ways that can hurt women, and so
I like how I have my own issues with masculinity, but I like how yours is the nurturer. Like you're looking out for the underdog in a sense. And it's not saying women are the underdog by any means. They bring us here. So without them, we would not be on these couches. But I like that, it wasn't like, oh, that guy's a piece of crap because ego. It was like, oh no, like I can separate that in a sense.
yeah.
Are are you at a point now where, because for me, I got to a point where I was viewing masculinity completely backwards, and I think that the guys that I was around who thought that they were being men were actually being boys, if that makes sense, where, you know, boys grow up watching other men, and if the men they're watching aren't truly masculine men, but they're those ego-fueled, they're those men that, abuse things that
Yeah.
they aren't really aware of themselves. And so to me, that's boys. There can be 50-year-old boys. There can be 10-year-old, but there's a shift at some point that you have to make. And to me, it's almost stoicism. Just go into your world, quit viewing this outside one, take care of yours. Because you do that, then you can take care of others outside of yours. But I
Yeah.
struggled big time with masculinity myself. Like growing up with sisters as well, I had thoughts where it was like, I should have been a girl. Like I didn't feel like I fit in a sense. And that, as I got older, shifted too. It was like, no, you were meant to be their brother. Like you weren't meant to be a girl or you would have been.
Well, and that was
And
difficult for me because, growing up, most of my close friends were girls. But then you get to an age where now you get married, and then a lot of my close friends who are girls now are married to a guy, and now it's not no longer appropriate
Mm-hmm.
to spend time with my friends,
yeah,
and so I felt like I lost a lot of friends when we became adults and were getting married, And then I'd have all these friends that I have that are women that would go to like women's retreats. I'm like, I want to go, I want to go,
Yeah.
but it's a women's retreat. So,
Yeah.
and I felt like I didn't fit in the men's retreats because so I was in this really weird space where I'm like, well, I don't really feel like a man. I feel more connected to the women, but I'm not a woman, so I can't go to the women's retreats.
Mm-hmm.
And so it left me,
creating your own retreats.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You had to. That's
yeah. But even
I,
with business, creating a business is seen as more of a masculine thing. That's something that, again, I've experienced the same thing where I don't want to be that business owner. I don't want to be that person that's all about money, all about, things. So starting out, when I would do these awaken events, I would feel bad if the event happened and I ended up making money. I felt like I had to give more than I got.
Mm.
And so I would invest into these retreats. I would put in all my time, energy, effort, money, and for the most part, like give it free. And
Way too cheap.
then,
Yeah,
I'd
you,
feel
you do,
okay.
from my experience, I should have been paying more for your retreats. Definitely.
And I think people would.
Yeah.
But because of how I see myself and how I see the
It's
whole
interesting.
piece, I wouldn't allow it because I'd feel like
you felt
I'd be
like the
taking
king
from people,
taxing.
and I'm
Yeah,
here to give to them.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
so
I
that's
hope
something.
I hope my comment landed the way I wanted it to. Like, it's a well worth it experience that people would charge more for. I
Yeah.
guess is what I'm saying. Charge what you want, but it
Yeah.
was like, man,
Life
that
changing.
was that was worth more than I paid for it. So
Yeah. Well, and to that, I think the reason why I haven't been doing as much is because I have, in a way, burned out. I've been putting so much time, energy, effort, but haven't been seeing a true benefit that benefits my family, because it's taking time away from my family. It's taking time away from endeavors and things that I could do that would earn money to provide for my family. And so that whole area has been, interesting.
it's challenging, yeah.
Money's a funny one. The older I get, we talked a little about Jonathan Livingston Seagull outside. And after reading that book, I was like, this isn't a planet, this is heaven. Like, we're in it. And money, once I had that realization, I was like, man, I've always had this back and forth battle with it, but after coming to an idea of this isn't what I thought it was, this just is, it's like, then why is there money? Why is there? And it's just a funny battle. I think people listening might have a similar, but you taught me the money friends,
Yeah.
which I mean
Ralph's
that,
taught me that too.
yeah, and that's different. To look at your $1 bill, George Washington, and become friends with him, it's hard at first, I think, for a lot of people, but you have to let it go in a sense and just there is infinite money and it's already I view it as I'm already a billionaire. I just time is here right now.
Yeah.
But future, yeah, it's all there. It's already golden brick road, all that. But right now is the present, and that's where I'm at. And
Yeah.
so it's a funny, like time travel almost with money.
It's like it's necessary for us to go through all of these painful, trying experiences, because that's what grows us.
Mm.
And so it's necessary. Um, C.S. Lewis, he has a book called A Grief Observed,
Mm.
where he writes about his experience losing his wife to cancer. And he just, he said he thought he understood God, and he thought he understood what happens after death, and he thought he had faith and a belief that life continues. But until his wife passed and he felt that loss, he felt like at that point his faith was a house of cards that just came tumbling down. And he's like, I thought I knew, but now he's questioning everything. Who is God? Is God real?
Yeah.
Cursing God, saying what kind of a God would give something so beautiful and then take away?
Yeah.
And so he goes through this whole thing, and then as you read it, he says, okay, well, God is kind of like a surgeon. He knows that he's going to cut into us and it's going to be painful. But a good surgeon wouldn't say, okay, I know this is going to hurt, so I'm not going to do it. A good surgeon says, I know this is going to hurt, but you'll be better on the other side.
Yeah.
And so I've been seeing this post go around on social media recently. You might have seen it. And it says, I would have pulled Joseph out of the pits. I would have, and it goes through all these prophets that are mentioned in the Bible, the Old Testament, and just saying, I would have had compassion. I would have pulled them out of it. But God, the universe, allowed the pain, allowed the suffering, because it grew them into the influential beings that they were. So you could look at people like Gandhi, Buddha, all these, Jesus Christ, these people who stand out in time. They didn't have easy lives.
Mm-hmm.
We think, oh, if I was perfect, then life will be easy.
If I had money, yeah.
But if Jesus Christ is an idea of a perfect person, he was killed. He suffered and had all sorts of pain and trials.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what this life is. And so if we can understand the mountains and valleys, that it's all part of one, and be grateful for the experience, even though it's painful. That's where the mountains and valleys idea helps me the most, because I'm like, okay, this is just a pattern. I'm in a valley right now.
Yeah.
Drinking the water.
It's gonna end, but I'm here for a reason.
You gain your nurturing. You taught me that. Where when you're in the valley is where you get the water, you get the nutrient, and then you hike the next mountain.
Yeah.
And you get to that peak and then you drop down and you're in that valley again. And
Yeah.
I like that book idea too. It was C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay.
A Grief Observed. It's short. It's like 60 pages.
Oh, that's my kind. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For me, I don't attach really. Like that's a weird thing to say, but I've found that when I attach to things is when, like, let's say this shirt. This is the easy example I can use, but this isn't my shirt. This is a shirt that I got that I'm taking care of right now. When I pass on, someone else will be wearing it, right? But if I attach to this shirt and let's say it rips, when that shirt rips, I loved this shirt. I've had this shirt for 4 years. You know, and you're attached to it, and it feels like a bit of you went with that rip, in a sense. And so I try to be big time grateful for things, always loving them, and just not really attaching. I don't, it's
Yeah.
the attachment to things is where I find I'm falling in love with the creation and not the creator.
Yeah.
And so gratitude helps me with that. Where it's hard when people do pass on, though. That's always a hard. That I don't think that does get easy. And it's just because, like what we've said on previous podcasts, where you said pain is love withheld, right?
Yeah.
And that once he taught me that and said that, it was like, holy crap. Like that's where you helped me actually with a breakthrough after it was 6 years after my grandfather passed away, that I could finally look at a photo of him and not feel shame or guilt, because his dying wish was for me to go on an LDS mission. And I'm the only grandson, and I got a tattoo instead. And so there was a lot of, underlying guilt that I didn't even know. And it was that pain from love that was withheld, not getting those moments and things. So it teaches you, though, because now, like, I won't let another moment go by. We're doing a podcast right now. I'm seeing Austin again. I could have easily flipped around this morning, but it was like, nope, I'm not going to skip out on life, in a sense.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because you talk about your dad and his influence on you, Clay, right?
Yeah.
And who do you think you would be had your dad not killed himself?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Take some time. It's in there. That's it.
No, I've thought about it, and I don't know how to answer it. Like I don't. The truth is, I wouldn't be who I am today, because who I am today is heavily influenced by feeling that pain of not just losing him, but losing him to suicide. It took me down a lot of the grieving process, really, but it was at first, I think like within the first few hours, I feel like I had so much clarity, and then I started to feel guilty, like, oh no, I'm supposed to grieve. Like, I felt like I understood it without understanding it, in a sense. Like, I knew that, like, yeah, I could tell the story of why I think he did what he did, whatever. But then, yeah, I started to develop this belief that it's because I'm not good enough. And then that led to, well, nobody loves me, or everybody who does love me just wants to die. And like that was really hard. And I was working through that with my marriage at the time. And then when she came home and asked for a divorce, it was like nail in the coffin for me, like, yep,
Another brick on the shoulder.
yep, it's true. I'm not good enough for love. And so I think if I could answer the question, I don't know that I would understand for sure life, but love like I do today, if not for what he did. And then, yeah, just the continuous curiosity of my emotions, my thoughts, why does certain little things bother me? others don't. Just not like picking it apart or over analyzing, but just being curious and understanding. Hopefully, hopefully that's what I'm doing is gaining understanding, and I think I am, especially the the mentors that I've had since you, um, and I call Tony Robbins a mentor, even though
Yeah.
I've never spoken to him, but he's somebody that has just things he says just ring so true to me. So yeah, who I would be, I don't know, but definitely not who I am today, for sure.
What are you grateful for who you are today?
Definitely. That's I don't know how else to say it, and it always sounds weird, but I am grateful for the experience I've had of my dad's suicide. I'm not grateful that he did it, but I'm grateful for the experience that it's provided, and the teachings and the lessons.
Yeah. I think some of the most pain comes, you have a Christian background,
Yeah.
right? And so we have this idea about like what suicide is and how terrible of a thing, right? And what happens to people who commit suicide,
Yeah.
What
there's this,
dreams may come kind of thing with Robin Williams, yeah.
yeah. And yet, I think you've met Tracy Roberts. He came in, he
Yeah,
spoke
yes,
at one
the
of the
five
Awaken events.
rings.
Yes.
Yes.
So he has a brother-in-law that committed suicide. And how I've heard him talk about suicide and his brother-in-law has been something that's always stood out to me, because he always talks about his brother-in-law with such love and compassion. And just, he says his brother-in-law just got to a point where he was ready to just move on to the next part of his adventure, and so he moved on, and in the process left, $1 million for his sister and Tracy. And so that money is then what he's been able to use to become self-sufficient, and then has allowed him to invest his time into writing his books and doing speaking. So if we understand, we're all one, like be it one, this energy, you can't be created or destroyed. We flow, and death is nothing to be afraid of. We're all going to die.
Pass on.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm
Well,
joking,
even
but
death,
yeah,
because even in life, like we die many times.
that's
We
true.
go where we die and we're reborn at different levels all throughout this life experience. And in some ways, we have to kill ourselves. We are asked. It is time for you to, we're invited to kill ourselves so that we can be reborn in a new way. So if we look at that from a space of compassion and wholeness, you know, your dad's not damned,
Yeah.
you know. And in some ways, like, what a gift,
Yeah.
for that pain and suffering to then give to you, which now you're giving to so many people,
Yeah.
so those ripples that go out, there is beauty in all aspects if we are open to it.
I like that you said that the damned thing, because for whoever's listening, I even think the word sin, I said it earlier, but sinning, it's so aggressive. It is so aggressive to think that what you said, you've done nothing wrong, is the first understanding in that book. And that to me is truth. Like sinning, having this idea of being damned or less than or anything, that is not from the creator.
It's fear.
It's fear. And there's fear and love. And anytime there is fear, that's not coming from the creator. That's not why the birds are singing or why the flowers blossom. It's love. So that's what I have to do. If I get scared of, passing on death, those things, I get scared because it's not coming from the creator. When I'm grounded, if I have those fears come up like, oh, I'm going to die someday. Holy crap, I'm not doing enough. I need to blah blah blah. You can spin out, but grounding yourself. If if I did the chi when I have those thoughts, that would already bring me back. But just being in the moment and being like, oh, that's fear. That's not, there is something after this, because if I think anything other, it scares me. Being scared is fear. So it's like, oh. But when I am in that love and open, it's like, oh, definitely energy keeps going.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we spoke too briefly, but I was scared of nothing because I thought I'd have a conscious mind observing darkness. And then it was like, but if there's nothing, there's nothing. There won't be a consciousness if there's nothing. And so that kind of was actually helpful. It was like, oh, if there's nothing, but there's something now, so be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and to what you said, you know, we kill ourselves. I, you know, obviously, if that sentence was taken out of context, then that would be a very weird sentence to say. But so you were saying throughout our life we were asked. Will you say that again, just so I make sure I understood?
So it started with, I feel like we die multiple times in this life and we're reborn at different levels of consciousness, energy, and at times some of our deepest deaths and rebirths, it's not forced upon us. We're invited to die.
Yeah.
And so you could say, you know, in that kill ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an action that I'm taking. I'm allowing myself to let go. I'm allowing myself to step into the dark.
Yeah.
And I'm taking that action so that I can die and be reborn.
It's the shift.
So I had this experience, this place called Choices in Las Vegas. You know, a lot of it's a lot of what you do at your events. I think there's Turning Leaf in St. George that does a lot of the similar
Dean
activities.
Nixon, yeah.
And we were doing this, you guys will know the term, but the lifeboat experience. And so in that, the small group coaches go around with the individuals that are handing out popsicle sticks, choosing if you live or die. And the small group coaches were only supposed to be talking to that person. And my small group coach at the time, you know, I'll say her first name, Jackie. It's like she was like an angel to me, and especially in this moment. And so it was, I don't even know how long we had been doing this, but it was a while. And then she was with somebody that stood in front of me, and instead of speaking to that person, she looked me dead in the eye and she said, "You've been dead a long time. You killed yourself a long time ago." And it just like pierced me. Like, oh, I mean, tears just flooded out of me. But it was like that moment, I needed to hear it because I was like, you're right. I did. And now it's time to be reborn. Now it's time like to step into this new life that I have of, and then in the same seminar I was Cupid. And so that's where I was like stepping into this new life of love and gratitude, and like it was so beautiful. And like, you know, she came up to me after and said sorry for saying it, and I was like, don't. I needed to hear that way, or else I would have just been like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But she just looked me dead in the eye and like, yeah, it was like, why did you say that to me right now? You're not supposed to talk to me, but like it was such a beautiful moment. And I've never really understood why I loved it so much until then, until what you said was like, it was a moment that if I didn't accept what she said to me, I wouldn't have been reborn. And I was reborn in that event.
Yeah.
For sure.
And just like that, will we be invited to let go? Other times we may want to die.
Yeah.
And what we're actually invited to do is live.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, no, I want this chapter to end already. I'm ready for the next one. And life is like, no, you've got to live. There's still more here in this chapter for you before you move on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that can be a very difficult choice because in that case, it's like death is, you know, you're like, okay, that's the easy way.
Yeah.
But, you know, other times we're invited to live.
Luckily for me, it wasn't an easy option because I had a real moment of contemplating suicide, and I was like, okay, quickest way is a gun. Oh, I don't have a gun. All right, quickest next way I think would be a knife. Well, I was living in the studio apartment. Didn't like I bought fast food all the time. Didn't have any utensils in the kitchen, so I didn't have a knife. I was like, okay, I could drive really fast and go head on with a car, but that would risk somebody else's life. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not a murderer. I could go for a hike and jump off a cliff, but it was like midnight. So, I was like, and then luckily it was difficult because I was like, okay. And that's actually where I dove back into Tony Robbins. There's this video on YouTube that says, everything we do for a reason. If somebody wants to kill themselves, there's a reason. And I heard that. And I was like, okay, I need to find this video. And it was the 6 human needs, where he talks about the 6 human needs. And so, yes, I agree. There's these times that, yeah, suicide for a moment was like, that's easy, but then it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you've heard of people too who have tried to kill themselves, but they couldn't. Like the universe kept stopping them. And have you heard of people like that? They're like, I've tried so many times. I've done this and this and this, but God won't let me die.
Yeah. I know a personal guy who tried with a gun and didn't work, and yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I mean, you could flip that. I don't know because I've never been there. Like, I think everybody's had thoughts of just being like, I'm so over this. I just want to go suck an exhaust pipe kind of thing. But I think it'd be tricky. Either you try to take your life and you're not successful, but you now have to live life in a different way.
Right.
And so,
Well, I think the vast majority of people, they don't really want to die.
no, yeah,
They want the pain to stop.
yeah,
The moment,
hopeless.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's an act in the moment, but it's that fight or flight response where I'm like, I can't handle this anymore, and so I just want out of it, and that's an action. And so suicide really is an action of hope.
Yeah.
It's I'm hoping that if I'm not here, I'll feel better, or at least I won't feel the pain.
Yeah.
So it is an act of hope. Because if someone who doesn't even have that hope, they don't believe that the pain will end. I mean, they don't even have the energy to even try anything. They're just, hopeless.
You said that the first time we met when you gave me the Limitless book. You told me that it's a act of hope. I was like, yeah, because that's what I believe with my dad is that yes, it was that moment, and so he became an alcoholic again after 18 years of sobriety, and I believe that he was just trying to kill the alcoholic, not necessarily himself. And I have written a poem about it of like him talking back and forth with the alcoholic, and it was just like, pull the trigger then, kill me. It's your only way. And so he did.
Those voices.
Yeah.
Which we all have.
Yeah.
There's a poem you wrote about like talking to death or something like that.
Yeah.
That you've got some pretty profound poems that you've written.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've been able to be the conductor of them. I don't know that they've all really came from me, but I've held the pen as it wrote the words, so. Yeah.
On time, sorry to
shift
where are
from
we? That. We could.
You've got family.
Keep going. Well, I was thinking to do another recording maybe, but
a little more focused on one thing.
Yeah.
Are you down?
Yeah.
All right. So real quick, just because I want to get in this habit
of wrapping up.
Maybe we'll save the final questions for the next one, but this one is like, where can people find you, on Instagram, TikTok?
So I've actually got a YouTube channel called Hope to Cope. Hope to Cope. So it's to give you hope to help you cope with today. And so the whole purpose of that channel is to help you when you're feeling depressed, hopeless, You're contemplating your life existence. Messages every day to give you hope to help you cope with today.
Yeah,
That's what the whole YouTube channel is for. And so I post a new video every day, and I've been doing that for about 18 months now. So I just barely posted my 700th video yesterday.
Wow.
And
Nice.
so
Yeah.
Awesome.
they're anywhere from, 1 minute up to 5 minutes. Occasionally you'll find a long one, 10 minutes, but they're short. So that's a good spot to just get some stuff. And then, I've got my books on Amazon, and
And
you can
they're
follow me on Facebook.
the books on Amazon. Anybody can find those. Do they type Austin
Yeah,
Soderquist
you'd
or do
probably
they
need to
type?
type my name
Okay.
because, and this isn't just with me. I've seen this with a lot of other authors as well, where you look up the book, you type out the exact book title, and it doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the trick there is you type in the author's name, and the books will show up.
And
That
maybe what
makes
we can
sense.
do, I don't know much about YouTube, but we might even be able to put links in there
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah. And I've
So,
got, there's a lot that's going on. I've got, parenting courses because, the best way is to teach kids while they're young. So these ideas, this information, give them a foundation. But in
yes.
order to get to kids, you got to get to the parents.
Absolutely.
And so,
There's always two to tango. It's not just the
yeah.
kid is the problem ever.
So that's why I did children's books initially, because I wanted, the parents love their kids, so they want to buy a book to help their kids. But I wrote the books in a way that it's not like see Jane run.
Mm-hmm.
It's more complex. So the parent or the guardian would have to read to the children, and then the hope is they're reading to have that aha moment where, oh, this applies to me too,
Yeah.
and to help them wake up.
Yeah.
And so every book from the very beginning has the message in it, you are a miracle, you have a purpose. And that phrase is actually hidden in the illustrations. Every illustrated book that I've created has hidden messages throughout the book as, symbolic of in our life, we have to find that within ourselves, that I'm a miracle, that I have a purpose.
A positive way to use subliminal messaging. I like it.
Yeah.
That's
Incredible. Yeah, I love that.
well, and I like though the books you're saying. I really my takeaway is I love cartoons and kids books. I'm a child at heart, man child, but the wording it is profound. It's a self-help book with cool pictures and cartoons to it, and
Yeah.
so fun.
Well, like Clyde said, I felt like a lot of these books wrote themselves, and I was just here because I wrote the book and then later learned some messages that were in the book that I had no idea were in the book. And then it's been layer upon layer that I've been learning from the books that I wrote. But so I feel like it's an honor that, it's part of my calling. It's not, I didn't write these books. I was able to receive and give these books.
Yeah.
That
Love
is
that.
yeah. And so Facebook, Instagram, what would be the best way for somebody watching or listening to
To
reach
learn
out
about
to
your
maybe,
events.
yeah, well, maybe find a new mentor or
Yeah,
something.
you
You
still doing
never,
one-on-one?
I
Would you?
I would, if you would have to do kind of an interview and kind of see what the goals are and if it's a good fit.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's difficult. I don't really have a web page. I don't have any of that stuff yet. But Facebook's the best place to reach me.
Yeah. Awesome.
and Austin, Soderquist,
Yep,
Soderquist.
just as it sounds. Soderquist.
No N in there.
No N.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Any any homework you guys want to leave the viewers with? Anything to challenge them with, or anything to
Well, I
work?
think this is just what we talked about, message from nature.
Yep.
That might be a good option because we talked about it. It's simple. You just take a few deep breaths and then you go to whatever draws your attention. Go there. And then if anything else draws your attention, go there until you feel like you're at peace. And then ask, what message do you have for me today? And write down your thoughts. This is something any of you listening can do simply. You don't have to go far. You could even do this in your house because there's so many things in your house that are made up of nature, right? I, there's wood, there's plants probably, there's a TV. I mean, you could get a message from anything. So it's just ground, pay attention to where your attention goes, and then ask, what message do you have for me today? And then write it down.
And with the grounding, there is no right or wrong way. It's just however you
Just
feel
take
at
a few,
peace.
just take a few deep breaths, 3 deep breaths. That's the easiest way.
Perfect.
Yep.
And the hand thing, we put our hands up to our mouth. What was the purpose of that? Is that a
Well,
helps in the
that's part of
grounding?
qigong,
Oh, okay.
the movements, and that's all about the breath. And then, as you notice with the movements, we, gathered the chakras and lined the chakras together. So that's a different exercise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Qigong though. So
Yeah.
that way they could look into
Yeah,
that as
look it up
well.
on YouTube. You can find some ways to do that.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But
Awesome.
yeah, thank you guys. It's great seeing you. You know, actually putting this together. Clyde, I appreciate you and thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've got a profound message. I remember just from day one when I met you, I'm like, you've got a message that I could see you on stages. I can see you sharing that, and it's needed. This message is very needed in the world today.
I appreciate
Agreed.
it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being so willing, sitting down, inviting us to your home.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Peace
Helping
of
us
Zion.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody.